The diner was quiet that afternoon, the kind of silence that feels heavy, like the world has taken a deep breath and is waiting for something to happen. The rain tapped gently against the fogged windows of Maggie's Root Diner, a small roadside cafe tucked between an open highway and an old military airstrip. The smell of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the sound of country music playing faintly in the background. Then the bell above the door jingled, and everyone's eyes turned toward the man who rolled in. He was in a wheelchair, a tall, broad-shouldered figure dressed in a worn bomber jacket, with patches that had once gleamed proudly, the insignia of the U.S. Air Force. His face was calm, his jaw strong, but his eyes carried something deeper, the kind of quiet pain only a soldier understands. The name embroidered on his jacket read Captain Ryan Cole. But before anyone could process the sight of him, the silence broke with laughter. Loud, crude laughter from a corner booth filled with a gang of bikers. One of them, a burly man with a beard and a leather vest that read Steel Reapers MC, nudged his friend and said loud enough for everyone to hear, Well, look who we got here. Guess the Air Force ran out of legs, huh?" The others laughed. The man in the wheelchair didn't respond. He just wheeled himself toward the counter slowly, his hands steady despite the tremor of tension filling the room. CTA1, if you believe in kindness, courage, and respect, hit that like button. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to Kindness Universe for more real, powerful human stories that touch the heart. The waitress, a kind-eyed woman named Maggie, looked uncomfortable. She shot the bikers a glare and quickly poured Ryan a cup of coffee. "Don't mind them, honey," she whispered. "They don't know who they're talking to." Ryan gave her a soft smile. "It's all right, ma'am. Some people fight wars, others just fight their own emptiness." That line silenced a few tables. But the bikers weren't done. "Hey, Captain Cripple," another shouted. "How's it feel to crash and burn, huh? Couldn't handle the sky anymore." Maggie slammed the coffee pot down. "That's enough, Rick," she barked. But Ryan just smiled faintly, his gaze fixed on the rain outside. What they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that this man had once been one of the Air Force's finest F-16 fighter pilots. He'd flown missions no one else dared take, he'd saved lives by risking his own. And 2 years ago, during an overseas operation, his jet had taken a hit. He managed to steer it away from a crowded village before ejecting. But the crash left him paralyzed from the waist down. Since then, he'd been trying to find peace on the ground after years of living in the sky. The door chimed again, and this time, the sound of boots echoed through the diner. At first it was just 2 men in military uniforms, then 4, then a dozen within moments, 30, 5 men and women, all wearing the emblem of the United States Air Force, stepped into the diner. Their presence filled the room with quiet, commanding respect. They weren't rowdy, they weren't loud, they were calm, disciplined, and united, like a wall of steel wrapped in pride. The bikers went silent. One of the officers, a tall man with gray hair and a chest full of medals, looked around the diner before his eyes landed on Ryan. Then his entire face softened. "Captain Cole," he said firmly but with deep respect, "Sir, we didn't know you were in town. We came as soon as we heard." Ryan turned, a bit surprised. "General Lawson," he said with a small nod. The general stepped forward, then dropped to one knee beside Ryan's wheelchair. "You saved 36 men that night in Al-Haram," he said. "Because of you, we all came home. You may have lost your legs, son, but you gave us ours. We will never forget that." The diner fell dead silent. Even the rain seemed to pause. Maggie wiped her eyes behind the counter. One of the bikers, the loudest one, suddenly looked small, his arrogance draining as fast as the color in his face. The general stood and faced the bikers. "Do you know who you're mocking, gentlemen?" he said, his voice sharp and clear. "You're mocking a man who gave his body for the flag that gives you the freedom to ride those bikes and open your mouths." No one spoke. Ryan tried to ease the tension. "It's all right, sir," he said quietly. "They just didn't know." The general nodded. "You're right, Captain, but now they do." He turned to the Air Force members standing behind him. "Attention," he barked, in perfect synchronization. Every single Air Force member stood at attention and saluted Captain Ryan Cole. The sound of 35 hands hitting brows echoed like thunder through the small diner. Ryan froze, his eyes filled with emotion. His lips trembled slightly as he saluted back, tears breaking free and running down his cheeks. The bikers watched in silence, guilt replacing their earlier mockery. One by one, they lowered their heads. Rick, the leader, finally stepped forward. His voice cracked as he spoke. "Sir, He hesitated. "I didn't know who you were. I'm sorry, we were out of line." Ryan looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "Apology accepted," he said softly. "But remember, you never need to know someone's story to show them respect." Rick swallowed hard, nodding. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a patch, the insignia of the Steel Reapers MC. He placed it on the counter in front of Ryan. "That patch means loyalty, honor, and respect. I think it belongs to someone who actually lives it." Ryan smiled. "Keep it, brother. Just make sure next time you live up to what it stands for." The room stayed silent, heavy with emotion. One of the bikers started clapping. Then another. Then the whole diner joined in, clapping, cheering, and standing in respect for the man in the wheelchair who had more strength sitting down than most men did standing up. Ryan wheeled himself toward the window again, watching as the clouds broke and sunlight streamed in. For the first time in a long time, he smiled. Not the polite smile of someone used to pity, but the real, unguarded smile of a man who'd found peace in knowing that even on the ground, he could still inspire others to fly. #CTA tune if this story moved you. Remember, kindness and respect cost nothing but mean everything. Hit the like button, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Universe for more true and inspiring stories that restore faith in humanity. As the Air Force members stood in formation outside the diner, they saluted one last time before boarding their convoy and driving away. The bikers stayed behind, quiet, reflective. Rick approached Maggie and paid for everyone's meal, including Ryan's. Then, before leaving, he turned to the wheelchair-bound pilot and said softly, "You taught us something today, sir. Thank you for reminding us what real strength looks like." Ryan chuckled. "It's not about strength, son. It's about courage, the courage to choose respect, even when no one's watching." As the sound of motorcycles faded down the highway, Maggie leaned over and whispered, "You really changed something today, Ryan." He looked at her, eyes glimmering. "Maybe," he said. "But sometimes, the sky isn't where heroes belong. Sometimes it's right here, where people can see them." Outside, the sunlight broke fully through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the diner. The rain stopped, and for a fleeting moment the entire world seemed to stand still, saluting quietly in spirit the man who once ruled the skies,